Hello. I want to talk about a few topics. Just a short upload today. Let's start with the people in this picture right here. And I'll start with President Trump because he's over in Saudi Arabia and he is brokering a big defense trade deal. I think $600 billion. And he is being greeted like a king. I believe the colors they're talking about on the carpet that he disembarked from Air Force One, it wasn't red, it was purple. If you all know what that means, let me know. The only thing I can guess is that I heard a long time ago that when men wear certain tie colors, that it means something to do with the economy and the health of the economy. So they say when men wear purple ties, it means that the economy is about to boom. So I'm not sure what the purple means for the carpeting. I'm not sure, but they rolled out a royal carpet for him, and they had Arabian horses. You saw it. I'll show it later, but it was pretty interesting. And we know that he also did another Saudi trip a while ago, I think 2016 or so, or 17, you can correct me, of course. And he was doing the sword dance. Remember, he took the sword and he was dancing. It was really interesting. It was funny in a way, right? Because the king and the prince were, I think, taken off guard. But it was great. It was great. Trump a great Trump move. Anyway, he is getting, they say, New York Post, of course, Gotham's rag, that he's getting curbside service. Trump zooms around on golf cart with Saudi's crown prince ahead of state dinner. So it says here that it is a personal diplomacy visit, and Elon Musk is there, our favorite African American. He pitches Trump Saudi royals on tens of millions of humanoid robots and autonomous cars. You know, Elon is going to be Elon with these robots, humanoid robots. I'm not feeling it. Anyway, we'll talk about robots also, the whole transhumanism thing. But Trump inks largest defense sales agreement in history, part of 600 billion. Did I say million? Billion Saudi deals. Trump announces end to Syria sanctions before meeting with ex Al Qaeda president. And Trump calls on Saudi Arabia to join Abraham Accords recognizing Israel. So that is going on, a state dinner. And he's also sending Marco Rubio to Turkey for a historic peace agreement talk with Ukraine and Russia. I think he was alluding that maybe it was going to be him going to Turkey, Istanbul, but he's sending Marco Rubio, according to the headline. So that's really something else. So I want to talk about Jaguar Wright, okay? Our favorite truth teller. Well, maybe not your favorite, but I like Jaguar, okay? And I feel that she is vindicated right now. I know people debate over what it is that she has done, but I'm really clear on what she's done. And I explain it this way. Jaguar broke the Overton window, I say. And I know people can debate and say, oh, she was just reading blind items. I've heard people say that. She was just saying what we all knew. But okay, you can say that, but what was the effect of us saying it and comparing it to her saying it? Because when she said it, it rippled around the world, okay? It was the sound heard around the world when she was on Piers Morgan on his show. And I think that really shifted the narrative, and it opened up this case to a lot of people who may not have been paying attention. They began to pay attention. So I think she has done a great thing in terms of justice moving in the direction it is. of course, I also mentioned to somebody in a comment because they said something kind of negative about her, because I post about her every now and then, Philly Johns. But I told the person, because they just asked, they weren't rude, they were just asking me, do you really think that she's for real? She's not a planned or controlled opposition? We've gotten used to throwing those terms around. And I simply told him that we're dealing with a very ancient death and sex cult. And it's nasty. It's real filthy. And in order to fight these forces of evil, I believe that the Most High Yah, he uses so many agents. He uses people in ways that we don't understand because we can't see the picture that he sees. He is omniscient, for one thing. Time does not bind him in any way. So he's able to see the beginning from the end. And he can use vessels of honor, vessels of dishonor. He can use anyone and move anybody on the chessboard. He will change the heart of kings and pharaohs if he has to. So we know from Bible history and accounts of how the Most High Yah fights the forces of evil. And we know that they are very active. They take their religion and their bloodline very seriously. And we're seeing it in our culture. People that adhere to these dark principles, how it has affected them and how they treat others. So I'll move on to RFK Jr. You see, I have a cornucopia there because he is our, I'm just saying, the crunchy guy, the organic, the one that's fighting for some sanity when it comes to food and drugs. And just the way that we allow the lobbyists to influence our lawmakers and change things, and we have this poor quality of food and healthcare, medicine, and it is because of the corruption in our government and the way that people have been, just grifting money. From what I've heard, what is her name? Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders are two of the most highest paid officials that are in the pocket of big pharma. So it's really disturbing, and it's really telling when you see how they freak out and crash out when President Trump and RFK Jr. want to bring the prices of medication down here in America and make it fair across the board, because we're being taken advantage of when it comes to pricing. And I don't know why anyone would be against such a thing. But, you know, RFK Jr. has been sounding the alarm about big pharma in so many ways, the corrupt practices. I was just sharing on X yesterday the shot schedule for children up to 18 years old. And it is unbelievable because in 1960, whatever, five, you only had maybe 3 or 4 immunizations. And then it just progressively got, added more and more layers and layers of inoculations. And now the amount of inoculations is something, it's ridiculous, okay? To go from a small amount and now having all of these things hitting the body of our young children from the time they're born until the time they're teenagers. Something has to give. And, they're having the conversations without being shut down like people had been. I was attacked once for giving an opinion at work. I had a coworker ask me a question about immunizations and what I thought about it. And I was just in a break room talking to her, and a doctor overheard and attacked me verbally. And it was weird, but it let me know the kind of environment that we were in, where you are an enemy for just sharing your opinion, especially if you've done research to see what the ingredients are in these shots. But we'll talk about that at another time. So, RFK Jr. and President Trump had a press conference recently, and President Trump was talking about a friend who was over in London, I believe, and he was on what he called the fat shot, which we know I call it Ozempic. So the friend said that he purchased the Ozempic over in London for like something under $100. It was very reasonable. But he said when he purchases it in America, it was something like $1,300. So come on, something has to give with that. It's really crazy. And what else? They basically said that they're going to do things to bring these prices to a level that is on par with what Europe deals with, the EU. So that's that. I continue to read labels and be that person when I'm in the supermarket. And I'm going to say that it makes me really angry when I'm in the supermarket and I read labels and see all of these ingredients. They're starting to add more things like canola oil, which I can get into a whole diatribe about that. Speaking of oil, we'll be talking about oil, yeah. But canola oil in everything. Why? So I want questions like that answered. Okay. So we'll get into more of that at another time. But I want to move on to the other side here of this picture. Some of the people in our culture that are making headlines, and one of them that I'm kind of like I'm cringing is Halle Berry. Halle Berry was recently on the red carpet of the Met Gala ball. And I get it. The Met Gala is all costume stuff. It's not for the everyday person. It's a ritual for them, and she had her, her lady bits that were kind of see through with this material. And she's a lady of a certain age, as Wendy Williams used to say, as I am. I mean, we're peers, Gen X. So I'm looking at her a little bit sideways, like, why? You're the most beautiful woman, they said, she had that title as the most beautiful woman. What more do you have to prove? If you're being called the world's most beautiful woman, you would think that you could be satisfied in that and age a little bit more gracefully and not show everybody your lady bits on the red carpet. I don't know. I know I'm being called like whatever names by some of the, feminists for saying these kind of things, but we have to start judging these things because we're in a reset and we have to decide what kind of culture we want moving forward. I don't think it's a good idea for women of any age to be in public not dressed appropriately. Now, I did see another headline with Halle Berry. She's making a lot of news because on Mother's Day, Halle I opened up X, and Halle Berry is in bed with her man, Van something. She's in bed with him. Okay. Cute. Glad Halle has found a love. Okay. It's nice. She's had a hard time. But, she wants us to know that she found her perfect man, I guess. But she's in bed talking about lubrication, and she's pushing some lubrication. And she thought it was really funny to do this on Mother's Day in bed with her boyfriend, not husband, boyfriend, and sharing it, you know, on social media. So it's kind of odd, but she made also more news because recently for the Cannes Film Festival, they told Halle Berry that she would have to put some clothes on to walk the carpet. That's embarrassing that she's being told that she has to change her dress because the film festival is banning nudity. Okay, so if anybody has a problem with that, I can't imagine you having a problem with them banning nudity. So it makes you wonder, what was she going to wear to the film festival? Because she's on one. I don't know what's going on, Halle? What the Halle Berry? Now, let's talk about Madonna because a lot of us used to like her, Gen Xers and stuff. We grew up. I just shared a reel and I had Madonna's I'm gonna wrap you up in my love all over, right? Don't lose me now. Okay, I'm sorry for doing that to your ears. But anyway, I loved her. She was fun back then, right? And she got progressively weirder and more Hollywood. And I don't know now, okay, she was trying to do a movie, like a feature movie, a big screen biopic back in 2023, and it was her life story. It was scrapped, and she's now trying to take her story to Netflix in a more limited series, which is sad. So they say they're in early development for that, and it's basically a story about her life. She says, as a human being trying to make her way in this world, and an artist, a musician, and a dancer, which she was, triple threat there. But what do you think about her doing this now at this stage? I think if she had done this before a lot of the creepy stuff, it would have gone over a lot better. But people are saying in the comments, they're like, I used to love Madonna, which I can relate to, and they say obsessively, I was never obsessive. And they said preteens, we're talking the 80s. And fast forward to now, I have no great interest to watch a movie, which she pats herself on the back. And then another person says, no desire to see this. And then another says, Madonna's ego was never going to allow any story even close to the truth to be told. That's interesting. So yeah, she's not doing good there. A lot of our Gen X and boomers, in terms of Hollywood types, they're not doing too well when they try to stay in the limelight and they don't want to back out gracefully, maybe get behind the cameras or something. I don't know. And then we have our Princess of Santa Barbara. We have our Duchess of, Montecito. I told you I've been enjoying the Meghan Markle algo. Very fun content creators that talk about Meghan. They've brought me up to speed because I was so in the dark about Meghan Markle. She's quite a character. So, Meghan Markle, she is what I would put in the category of that sort of modern neo Jezebel. Yes, I said it, a neo Jezebel. We have so many of them. Oh my God. So this woman is so ambitious. And I've been hearing people say, like, a podcast about her being a founder is just not believable. The cooking show and all of this stuff. And it's like Prince Harry, is a non-factor. She was really going to use him, a lot of people are saying, to get the shine and the fame that she so desperately wanted. And I mean, people have described her as allegedly a yacht girl. I don't know, but that's what people say in the marketplace. She's not very liked, and it's the authenticity that's missing with her. And it's interesting because, again, I asked the other day, like, how do people get to be this way? She's an only child, I think, in terms of her mom. Her dad had other children, but yeah, she's really problematic. But Prince Harry, he, gave up a lot. And yeah, boy, they said she was at the Beyonce concert, and she was there dressed up as a cowgirl. Her and Harry at a Beyonce concert. I can't see it, but yeah, he was there. And now we'll talk about Beyonce right now. Beyonce has been going through a lot of bad things lately. I mean, we know about her husband and the accusations, but her tour, this Cowboy Carter tour, is having a lot of glitchy things happening, and people are complaining. They're demanding their money back for the tickets, and you've heard about the tickets not selling. Although you have other people, fans, and maybe bots that are saying the tickets are selling fine in other countries, which might be the case, but we're talking about here in America, Los Angeles, at the SoFi Stadium. She's not selling out those shows. And things are happening, which can happen. I mean, on a show, things happen. But I think with Beyonce, she runs a tight ship and she oversees a lot of the details we've always been told. And she had something going on with robots, some kind of robot arms. And the robot was supposed to pour out some of her Sir Davis liquor, and the robot got the dimensions messed up and poured the liquor onto her throne. She was sitting on a throne or something because she's the queen, remember? And the queen is not queening a lot right now, but yeah, the robot malfunction. And that might be ominous warning that she might want to take heed to. But yeah, we know about her dressed up as the Metropolis robot and this transhumanism thing that she likes to show on stage. But I want to say something about it from a different lens. Um, Beyonce told us that she allowed a spirit to drive her vehicle. And when I say that, I mean her soul. She told us when she used to do interviews, she was on, I believe, Oprah, and she described that a being by the name of Sasha Fierce had inhabited her, and she welcomed this spirit. And whenever the spirit would come upon her to inhabit and get in the driver's seat of her vehicle, she wouldn't know the things that would happen on stage. She would become another person and perform, like, really wow the crowds. And that's what the people are probably still expecting, that Beyonce that was fully inhabited by another spirit. And she could do things that maybe, you know, without this being, she may not be able to pull off. And also, she said that sometimes she would throw things, like she threw a watch out once into the audience. And later she asked her staff, like, where was her watch? And they were confused because they were thinking, like, you threw it out into the audience. What do you mean? And she's didn't remember. So this inhabitation that a lot of these people engaged in is very real. And I know it sounds, hoo hoo and everything, but it's very real. And there are stories that have been shared of things that happen in those music studios when they're recording, and they have to deal with spirits so that they can get the inspiration, the muse. So it's a lot going on there. But the thing about Beyonce that we are witnessing, it's really sad for people that used to like her. I used to like Beyonce a lot. I don't hate her or anything. I'm just really concerned about the things I'm hearing about, in terms of her and her husband and the whole Diddy connection. It's not going well for them because a lot of their business ventures, loans are not being approved. And this is a stain on their brand. And that is across the board. The entire culture, the music industry, hip hop, R&B, everything you can imagine that has to do with entertainment and Hollywood is right now under a very strong microscope, and it is being judged again by the Most High Yah and the people. And it's no way out of it. It's happening. We can't stop this. It's like a train that has left the station, and judgment is upon us. It is upon all of us. So what's happening to Beyonce is going to be really hard for a lot of people who still hold her on a pedestal as an idol, an American idol. It's going to be very hard for them in the coming weeks. And I want to talk about some of the things that we can do to combat some of the heartbreak, some of the stress. I have anticipated that this would be a hard season for a lot of people. And, it just is. This is going to be a longer upload than I thought. So let's move on to Diddy. The Diddy case is going on. We're on maybe day 6. It's not televised like the OJ trial, but it is very historic because it is the entire industry under judgment. So it is a cultural reckoning, and we're going to come out of it when the dust settles, and a lot is going to be different on the landscape. First of all, the gatekeepers is going to shake up the gatekeeper class, because this is a RICO case, and Diddy can't be the only one in the RICO case. I don't know. A lot of people are wondering about that. I don't know a lot about the law, but it is going to, I think, have a lot of surprises, and people just, they think that the case is already underway, but it just started, so we have to be patient with it. But what's sad about what's happening now is Cassie has been named as the star witness for the prosecution, and she had her day in court to testify against Diddy. And we have a lot of our YouTubers that, you may have faves that are up there, like Tisa Tells is up there. We have Jag is up there, and others that you may know of that are covering the trial. I like the Inner City Press guy. He covers all the trials. So if you ever want to know what's going on, I was following him when he was going to do the Ghislaine Maxwell thing like a couple years ago. So he's still at it. And you have BJ Investigates, that surprise witness. She does really good work. So, in terms of the details, I don't want to get into the salacious details of this case, but it's very disturbing. Cassie was treated so poorly as a girlfriend, and people have their opinions. People will shame a victim, a woman who was with a rich man, because they assume that she was a gold digger and she's just there for the money, and all kinds of things that are said, money grab and all this stuff. But the thing about Cassie, she seems like a really sweet person. And I believe a lot of people in the industry were very concerned about her. And I remember years ago hearing a blind item of sorts in which someone said that something needed to be done because they were witnessing the treatment of Cassie by Diddy. And it was so disturbing. They were at a party, like a backyard type of situation, and they were talking about how Diddy was just doing intimate things with her, just right out in the open on the backyard, just like an animal. And they described it as after he was done, he just tossed her onto the ground, and she was bleeding from orifices. I don't want to get into the details. The details are graphic. They're very disturbing. If you're not someone like me with a healthcare background, it's not for the faint of heart to listen to it. I'm not even going to delve into a lot of the details because I've heard a lot of them. They're disgusting. We heard it with the R. Kelly, the details of it, and I don't want to get down into the details so much, but just know that this woman, she may be misjudged by some people because they may think they have her all figured out. But she was very young. She was 19. And I talk about that age, 19. 19 is a very vulnerable age for some reason. I've shared that. It's not the time to take your hands off as a parent. For a 19-year-old, a lot of temptation comes at that age. And I don't know why. If you know anything about that age, 19, I believe that people need extra protection around them at that age for some reason. It's just something it's a theory that I've been working with, and I have not figured it out. But I'd be happy to see what some of you might think. So Cassie was degraded and dehumanized by this man in this relationship. And his defense strategy is to make it like they were both abusing each other. I don't know how that's going to work out, but there are relationships where both people abuse each other, but you have to look at power dynamics and who has the power in the relationship. That factors into this. So they're going to get into those arguments that this was just a couple of swingers and got out of hand, and he's just a guy that he's a horny guy that likes to have freak offs and baby oil, bathtubs full of baby oil. These are some of the details. It I know Cassie is the star witness, but I kind of think that the star of this trial is going to be baby oil, very ironically, because it was so much a part of these sexual deviant get togethers. And it's ironic that it is baby oil. I shared in a previous upload that I did about the Philadelphia artists and different people that were connected to this Diddy case, possibly. And baby oil was also connected to Philadelphia because it was a pharmaceutical company back in the day, McNeil, that merged with J&J, and McNeil's right outside of Philadelphia, a suburb called Fort Washington. And yeah, the baby oil. So Johnson and Johnson has a stain also on their brand because this Diddy case being connected to baby oil, and baby oil, just that right there. We're talking babies, children, and the stuff that's going to come out in this case. That's what I said. It's not for the faint of heart. And I'm concerned about the healing after we're going to lose a lot of innocence because people refuse to believe that we have people amongst us that do horrendous, degenerate things to children. Not underage ladies, underage women, children. We have to start calling them what they are, children. And this has yet to come out fully, but brace yourselves because there's some really hard truths that a lot of people are not ready for. And our prayer warriors, we need you all hands on deck, uh, moving into this season of exposure in a different way, because not only Diddy, but people are crying out for the Epstein stuff to come out too. And this is all converging at one time. The Epstein stuff, Bill Gates is being named with the girl that 19, also a Russian bridge player or something. And he met her through Epstein, and his wife divorced him over a lot of this kind of stuff. So a lot of people, okay. And us as a nation, as a collective, the ones that want to live in a decent country, we are going to have to do a lot of care, of ourselves, make sure we are resilient and that we're okay with this type of stuff. We have to check our own health and wellness and make sure we pull away from some of this stuff when we need to do things that help. They say touch the grass, go to the farmer's market, do some things, because we're going to not be the same after a lot of this stuff for the culture. I mean, of course, everybody's not connected to this Diddy stuff, but I'm talking about a cultural shift that is afoot. And I've never witnessed anything like this on this scale. And I'm concerned about how we will not survive it, but how we will thrive after this stuff, like I said, settles. So I'll be talking about that more going forward. So let's move on to President Trump over in Saudi Arabia. I want you to look at the horses and just the, you know, the airplanes that came to guide him in. Okay, so we'll check that out next. Oh my. These horses, look at this procession, very regal. Wow. So I just got a few clips just to show you, if you haven't seen, you probably have already, a lot of you, how the Saudis have welcomed our president, and his Air Force One was escorted by some Saudi fighter jets, which I know it might be standard, but it's just nice to see, and just a little break from the other stuff going on. So he's over there, the art of the deal. And yes, we have a businessman who is handling business, and he is a negotiator. And he sits down with people that he may not like personally, that he may not agree with, because he's able to broker business and discuss it without the emotional stuff. A lot of men are gifted in that way. They can sit down with a person who is seen as maybe a bad person by many people's definitions, but it's not about that. It's about, how are we going to deal with other nations when it comes to trade, and how is it going to be a fair and balanced landscape? And that's what we need, somebody who is tough, who can talk to people who might not be so great, but they can be stern and represent our interest. I know a lot of the people that don't like him, they hate everything, they can't give him credit for anything good, the tariffs and the deportations and all that. I'm not going to get into the details, but I want to say that this trade agreement is going to benefit our country, our economy, and things don't happen right away, but we're moving in a direction that will bring prosperity back to our nation. So I welcome it, and I'm very grateful. Now, I wanted to share this, just popped up on the New York Post, where they titled this article, Facing Her Demon. Yes, her demon. Cassie claims Diddy controlled freak off sessions down to the last disgusting detail. Names trusted assistants who arranged them. I wanted to read that last part so you'll know this is an enterprise, this is a business that Diddy was running, and Epstein as well. So, trusted assistants, I don't know how many, but we've heard about his chief of staff, like Christina Coram or whatever. And we know that Young Miami did some muscle work for him, trying to get women to get abortions allegedly. So she was like the strong arm of his enterprise. And this man that Cassie is now married to, he was on the inside observing the abuse that Cassie was under. A lot of people saw the abuse, okay? And he was a trainer, and he rescued her. Basically, she's married now with children, and she's very pregnant right now with, I believe, her third child. And so these assistants, this is the part of the RICO that is probably going to start unfolding. We'll just be patient and watch the people, the experts that know a lot more about this stuff. But I think it's a redemptive arc to see Cassie married in a family with children, and this man, he seems like a good man. I heard that Diddy wanted him removed from court today, so I don't know about those details, but drama. drama. Now, I want you to listen to a songwriter. Her name is Tiffany Red. I follow her on IG, and I love to hear her talk about how she defends other songwriters and she fights for their rights, for the royalties and things. If they're being done in by these bad deals, she speaks up. So, Tiffany Red, she's, like I said, very prolific songwriter, and she worked with Cassie. So she knows a lot about a lot of the artists in the industry. She's very respected. And a lot of times with these cases, of course, they attack the victim, especially when a high powered man like Diddy is involved. So Cassie is not believed by a segment of our population. They think that she's just in this for money, but Tiffany Red gives a different account of Cassie. She was an artist who was promised a lot. She was serious about making music. And listen to what Tiffany Red has to say.
My chest is like warm. That man had so many of us working. And like, as she said earlier in her testimony, she was in a 10-album deal. So there's no reason for anybody who was writing or producing for her to ever believe that they were working on a project that wasn't going to come out, because she had a record deal and had already had hits. She was signed to Bad Boy, and she had one of the biggest names in the game behind her, which was Diddy. The reality is he used us to trick her without us even knowing. I didn't know. How would I know? And why would I spend the prime time of my songwriting career writing for a project that wasn't going to come out? How does that make sense? It doesn't. Everybody was working on that project. I remember one time being at the studio with Cass and just like sitting there and going through her hard drive and pulling up different records from just so many different people. I mean, she worked with everyone. Who would work with everyone on something that's not coming out? Nobody. That doesn't make sense. Cassie has so much incredible music that y'all never heard. So far beyond anything that I wrote. She recorded music for years and years and years and years and years. And I see a narrative in the comment sections and some of these, the people reporting on the shit. I see like, she was fame hungry. No, she was an artist who had already had a hit record, who was excited about her career. Like, let's not forget that Cass was signed to Next Selection, which was Ryan Leslie's company, and he's the one who did Me and You, and he did that joint venture with Bad Boy, and Me and You was released and the song went crazy. Like, let's not treat this like she was some groupie, because she wasn't. She was an artist. Ooh, it's day 2 and this shit's already pissing me off. My chest is like warm.
Now, I want to end here with Al B. Sure. A lot of you know about Al B. Sure, Gen Xers. We loved Al B. Sure. A lot of us had crushes on Al B. Sure. We watched him go through a really hard time. He shared his struggle with a health crisis that happened to him back in 2023, I believe, or 2022. And he went through a multi-organ failure, and he was speaking a lot about Kim Porter. So Kim Porter, who is now deceased, she was his girlfriend or wife. I'm not sure if they actually got married at the time, but they have a son named Quincy together. And it's a lot of, it's like a black Greek tragedy, because her son with Albie Shore was raised by Diddy in the house, with Diddy and Kim Porter. So Albie Shore was the father on the outside, it looks like to a lot of us, and a lot of people have a heart for his plight, because it just looks like somebody just stole his child and just took over. And it's really sad. A lot of this stuff happens, but because he is a celebrity and it's in the public, we're getting to see how painful things can be when people are not honorable. Okay. So Kim Porter is now gone. And I remember some years ago, after she passed away, that Albie Shore was on social media. I think he was in the car and he was really having a hard time, and he just couldn't, he just had to get it out. And he may have said something that gave people the impression that Diddy may have had something to do with Kim's unfortunate ending. And then he took the live stream down. So that caused a lot of red flags and alarms to be set off all throughout the industry and the public. And then the conversation started. A lot of people believed him, but a lot of people did not believe him. So he has a book that's coming out right now. And I think September, it's going to be released, September of this year. And it's titled something like "Do You Believe Me Now?" And he's been doing interviews talking. I mean, he said for the first time in public that he believes that Diddy had something to do with his health crisis. So it's really starting to heat up now. And he wants an investigation opened up on the death of Kim Porter, because he does not believe that she died by pneumonia, from pneumonia and all these other things that the coroner may have said. And that's a whole other issue, the coroner, and also the fact that Diddy had a coffin ready, a coffin that takes a little bit of time to make. I think it was golden or something, and that is an issue. I don't know how that's going to come out in this case, but that's what people have to brace for, because we haven't heard all that's going to come out. It may be like kind of slowly chugging along, and people are starting to think the prosecution doesn't have a good case and Diddy might walk. It's a lot of talk like that. You got a person out there, free Diddy. And hey, I don't know. Things, very strange things can happen. But if Diddy does walk, there's no freedom. There's nothing for him unless he has a redemptive arc. And I don't know what that would look like. But Diddy needs Jesus Christ. We all do. And we need to return to our foundations. And all of this trading our soul for the world, it's short lived. Look at how short it's been for Diddy, for Jay-Z, for Beyonce to trade your soul for this world for just a short season, and then have to be humiliated and fall from grace in front of everybody. That's not a good deal. A Faustian deal that you make at the crossroads, and you may do some destiny swapping with your competition, and a lot of dark things like that we'll get into at another time. This is turning out to be a long upload, but please forgive me, okay? I will see you soon, and we'll be talking about more to come. But did I say the thing I wanted to say about Jaguar? Jaguar, by the way, she is being vindicated. She is outside of that courtroom and possibly inside. I saw her outside. She has a whole setup. She has leveled up, and I'm happy to see it personally. I'm happy to see a redemptive arc, and I'm looking forward to seeing more great things from Jaguar and others that cover these kind of things. But thank you for watching and for subscribing and liking the videos. I do appreciate that. I'm going to really work on building this channel, and I'm going to work on the live streaming. Okay. So listen out for another live stream. I'm going to do this again. Be patient with me. I think it was just a minor glitch in OBS, but I want to really master OBS. Okay. And I appreciate everybody with their tips and their help. Somebody tried to help me learn OBS a few years ago, and I just had a block. I don't know. It was just easier to use StreamYard, but I'm complaining. StreamYard's too expensive. I don't do enough live streams to justify it. But anyway, okay. I'm going to go now. Thank you. I'll see you soon. Bye.